Good afternoon and welcome to AM News Network presents Summary Judgment. I'm Rachel Baird and I'm joined here by Ed Peruta. We're transmitting live from the American News Media Center studio in central Connecticut where it's snowing today.
The sun's out.
It's snowing too.
Where?
Outside. Talk about General Flynn. What's going on?
Okay.
You have a lot of strong opinions about
Well, it goes well beyond General Michael Flynn. General Michael Flynn was an honorable member of the military, rose through the ranks, became part of the Trump team in the White House, and I guess didn't correctly state that he had spoken to a Russian ambassador at some point in time. And when asked, said that he didn't or couldn't remember, whatever. Well, they charged Michael Flynn. And, they revoke your security clearance, they arrest you, you got to hire lawyers. Well, I was reading, Michael Flynn lost all of his pension.
Wow.
Lost his home. Legal fees. $3.5 million, $4 million in legal fees. And when things start to mount up to the point where you're literally bankrupting not only you, your family, your children, everything. He pled guilty to end it, to try and we see that all the time.
Right.
Well, for about a year, since Donald Trump if Donald Trump had not been elected, what's occurring now in the media would never have seen the light of day. But evidently, some people have been, I think it may have started first with Judicial Watch and FOI request and, people wanting to see records and people withholding records.
Agencies that can really take hold of an issue and stick with it and put pressure on it. Most average citizens without means, time, resources, you try to make these requests, they don't comply, they ignore you, and you don't have time to follow up on it. So thank goodness for these organizations. That wasn't the only loss that the Department of Justice suffered this past week. Bridgegate.
Oh, yeah. Now, I don't know whether that's the New Jersey Supreme Court or the Federal Supreme Court.
Federal.
Dropped Bridgegate.
Well, they reversed it. They said that it expanded too much on the federal statute that they were convicted under. It's that statute where it regards honesty in government, honest services, whatever, and the U.S. Attorney's Office is always trying to stretch it, so that it includes lots of conduct. And the Supreme Court's been putting a brake on that, saying you just can't have a free-for-all and allege that there was theft of honest services or mail fraud, all these things that maybe they're crimes, maybe they're not, just like lying to an FBI officer. When they can't get you on real stuff, they get you on mail fraud and being untruthful to an FBI agent. And that's just verbally.
But they can be untruthful to us.
Absolutely. There's case law saying police can lie to you in the course of their duties. Right. I don't know why people ever trust what a police officer says.
Well, this was 2 days ago. It's in the New York Times. U.S. drops Michael Flynn case in move backed by Trump. Michael T. Flynn's President Trump's first national security advisor. The move was the latest example by Attorney General, and I'm sure he's going to say William Barr. Okay.
Yeah.
Barr's involved in it. There's handwritten notes that are now coming out under discovery.
Right. It's a work in progress.
The government saw the evidence building. The more evidence that started to come out and become public, the evidence started to build, showing exactly what was done to General Michael Flynn in his case, who was doing it, why they were doing it, the intent of doing it, okay? In other words, charging him things that he didn't do just to charge him with something, and enough is enough. The charges, the DOJ has now dropped the charge.
I mean, look at the case against that congressman, or was he a senator from Alaska, Ted Stevenson,
Right.
where they just went full force on him, and then it turned out there were improprieties in the prosecution, and I believe his name was cleared as well. You know, as
After he lost the election,
right?
And after, I believe he may have passed away.
After the damage was done.
After the damage was done.
I don't think it was after he passed away, because I don't know why they would have even addressed it then. But maybe you're right. I don't know. Another case that, sure, when it came out, most of us were like, you know, these rich people trying to get their kids into college by lying, they should go to jail forever. You know, but when you think about it, in the scheme of things and in comparison to other things, I mean, I'm as irritated as anybody about what, you know, Lori Loughlin and these people did. But she is standing her ground with her husband, and she's saying, you prosecute me, and I believe that there's information coming out that's not good for the government, that they withheld information and things that might affect their prosecution of her. But you know what? How much money has she spent? How much has her life suffered? And I know there aren't many people feeling sorry for her, but it's the principle of the thing. We have a good friend who his mantra is, the process is the punishment. It doesn't really matter if you're ever found guilty. It doesn't matter what happens at the end. Getting to the end is what harms you, even if you're eventually acquitted or the case is dismissed.
It's no different than my learning this week that I said on this program that my son had been arrested in Indian River County.
Yeah,
Florida,
you told that story, yeah.
and that he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He was videotaping with his girlfriend's cell phone because his battery had died. It wasn't like he was out looking for news. He came upon news and started to investigate, ask questions, and
Mm-hmm.
shoot video.
Mm-hmm.
An Indian River County Sheriff's deputy, i.e. a sergeant, I believe, told my son to move back. You got to move back. My son, who's been around me for all of his life, said, wait a minute. I'm not in a crime scene. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just standing. You have to move. My son says, no, I don't. Well, they pushed him. They cuffed him. They give him the bum rush to the cruiser, slammed him up against the cruiser.
Sorry?
Slammed him up against the cruiser.
Okay, I'm silent.
Slammed him up against the cruiser. Threw him in the cruiser. Put him on a $500 bond where it cost him $100 for the bondsman to get out of jail. Minimum $500. Minimum.
Which you don't get
$100.
back.
You don't get it back. Okay? And when they took his photograph, his mugshot, only one of his two hearing aids are in his ears. So I guess when they slammed him up against the cruiser, one of his hearing aids came out.
Yeah, good luck getting compensation for that.
So I said to him, well, and so this week, Michael went to go to court. He got to the courthouse and the clerk says, your case has been dismissed.
It reminds me of a case we had a number of years ago. Is that somebody
Summary
calling into the
judgment.
show?
Hold on a minute, I got to turn the volume up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Joe Cool.
Hey!
Oh, Joe Cool.
Joe
We haven't heard
Cool.
from him in so long.
Listen, how many subscribers have you got now?
I'm about 16K now, and
60. 60.
No,
16.
16,000.
16,000, yeah.
Now let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you getting a little bit of revenue?
Yeah, just started. I was just monetized a couple months ago, in fact. Yeah.
So you get a couple of bucks a month?
I get a couple of bucks here and there, man. I ain't invested yet, man. I got a little money saved up.
Have you taken any trips lately? Have you taken any trips lately?
The last one, we went to Boston, New York. That was the last one. The Virginia gun run, I think, was the last one we went to.
Yeah, I think I saw that one.
I had the California Vegas trip planned, but the COVID hit.
Yeah, yeah. I was in Vegas on March 5th and came back just in time to miss all that.
Now, Joe, you know I gotta ask. You know I gotta ask you questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had to show your ID card?
Oh, no freaking chance, man. Oh, you mean the press ID? I never, you know I'm lazy and procrastinate like nobody's business. I never took it off the other phone and printed it up. And I would prefer not to have ID right now. I feel like, I'm pressed and I tell them I'm pressed. But no, prove it, lock me up, man. I got 16,000 subscribers. I think I'm pressed. Lock me up.
Oh, Joe, you don't know how happy people like you make me.
You don't know either how happy I was just to see you guys, man.
Well, here's what I would like you to do for me. I am migrating over to a new YouTube channel called American News Media Center.
What was that last word? Central? Or
Center. American News Media Center.
Gotcha. All right, you already got the channel up and running?
I'm leaving Summary Judgment Talk Show, and I'm going to be going to American News Media Center because I want to talk about more things than simply summary judgments and the courts.
I got you. I understand that.
So what I need for you to do is to ask all of your subscribers to come over and subscribe to the American News Media Channel Center.
Do me a favor, man.
Yeah.
Text, I'm pulling up at the apartment. Text me American News Media
Center.
Yeah, text me that.
I will.
When I get a break, I gotta go check the mail at the apartment. When I get a break, I'll check out the job.
Listen, brother, all I can tell you is people like you and Dave Warden and some other people who have followed the News Now mantra and become either News Now Chicago or Joe
Cool.
Joe Cool or whatever, and you're doing your audits and you're minding your business and you're standing your ground. I'm a happy camper.
I know, right?
So you stay out there and stay safe in Chicago.
Thank you for that, man.
Adios, amigo.
Bye, Joe. Nice hearing from you. It sounds like it's windy in Chicago. I think
Chicago,
that's what it was.
The Windy City.
Let's tell people who may not know about Joe Cole. He has a YouTube channel.
Oh, he does.
He lives in Chicago, and he goes out and shoots news, audits the police in Chicago. He travels. He's traveled to, I know, D.C., Virginia. I think he mentioned Boston and New York there.
American News Media Center.
But he called up the show, maybe about a year ago. And he had been taking some recordings of the police.
And not really doing a lot with them.
And you explained how to load them up on YouTube.
Get a YouTube channel, load them up onto YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Get yourself a name. I gave him a set of press credentials.
I think you already had a name.
Oh, he had
Definitely.
A name. He had a name.
Yeah.
But
and
it exploded.
Yeah, a year or so, and he's up to 16,000
Now,
subscribers. So Joe Cole.
Don't get me wrong. I think that I have to say this, and I think that Dave Warden, I talked to him earlier today when he called. But when I first talked to Dave Warden, and even when I first met J.C. Playford, I had a very colorful background with my involvement with law enforcement when I was younger. I was out shooting news and I was getting chest bumped by police officers in the middle of the night when I was all by myself. There were no other members of the media except me. And they bullied me or attempted to bully me or whatever. But I'm 71 years old now. And I think that I consider myself to be an elder statesman of these freelance journalists that are running around with their video cameras and doing what they're doing. And I want them to be safe. I want them to be treated with respect. But I can't go out and chest bump anymore.
When was the last time you went out and did that? I think it was last April. April of 2000. No, this April. No. April. Was it April of 2019? It was. It was when the fatal happened here in Wethersfield. And they were demonstrating.
Oh, yeah.
And they were demonstrating. And you went to the police department shooting news. And the demonstrators were very threatening to you and bumped up against you.
Okay, whoa. Well, I understand the chest bumping by demonstrators. I'm talking about policemen chest bumping me.
Okay.
It's different when a police officer chest bumps me.
Right.
Because I think I lose it a little bit more because I know what they can and they can't do, and they know what they can and they can't do, and they do it anyway. But what I'm trying to say is this, is that I have said this before. I do not agree with if you go out with the strictest intent to harass a policeman. I don't agree with that. But I agree that if you're minding your own business, even if it's in the vicinity of the business of law enforcement or fire,
even if your business is recording police activity,
if you're not in their way and you're recording their activity, they need to stay the fuck away from you. Don't even approach me. Don't even call me or talk to me or inquire of me, what are you doing here? None of your fucking business. Now, usually I say it not like that. But I have every right, I think, to say, did you take a test to be a police officer? I have a hat that says news media. I have credentials on my chest that says news media. I have a vest with it embroidered in the back that says news media. And I'm carrying a goddamn video camera on my shoulder.
But even if you
What do you think I'm doing
But
here?
even if you didn't have all those things.
No, but what I'm saying is, the stupidity of the question is multiplied times 5, 10. Okay? The credentials, the hat, the vest, the camera, the car with the plate, CT News. That's 5 things that the police officer, if he looks around, he would see. And then to come up and ask me, what are you doing here?
And you could respond, well, people talk to each other all the time out in public. You know, hi, how's your day going? What are you up to? But what police have to realize is they put on that uniform, they have that gun for a reason. And that's to exercise authority. And it's a lot different when they ask you what you're doing than if just a passerby asks you what you're doing.
Here's a standard answer. If a member of law enforcement comes up to you and says, what are you doing? Say, look, I'm really not supposed to tell you, but I've been hired by the chief of police to monitor what's going on in the streets and report back to them.
Or you could just say, I've been hired to monitor what's going on in the streets. I don't think you should lie.
Why not? They lie to us.
I have a couple things to talk about the United States Supreme Court this week. For the first time, they conducted oral argument by telephone.
Yeah.
And I guess each justice was at his or her home, and they were on a phone line. And then I guess the attorneys were each at their home, and it was on the phone. And I couldn't believe it, but NBC News put it out. Although it could still be fake, who knows? Maybe they got fooled. But During oral argument, in the background, you can hear a toilet flushing. I just find that crazy.
Let me tell you what I think. Let's assume that that's true. Let's assume that some inexperienced member of the Supreme Court who knows nothing about audio and video and the capability of audio to capture every sound.
Right.
Okay. Figured it would be okay, you know, I can't hang up. So he takes the phone with him, he goes in, he urinates, and he flushes the toilet.
It's possible.
Or
A family
somebody
member
was arguing the case while they're sitting on the can making cookies in the toilet. You know, so all I can tell you is this. They will see that as a reason not to open up the court rather than a reason to open it because of situations like this. Okay?
Yeah, but if they're on the bench, I mean, the likelihood of that happening.
How many times? Now, I've been involved in this for shit. Now I'm going to have to do my math. If I started when I was 23 in the media, 23, 43, 53, 63, 7, 8, 40, 58 years?
Okay.
Okay. Do you know how many times I've been walking around the hot mic transmitting all kinds of shit the way I talk? You've even been in a situation where we've had a hot mic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And you're petrified.
And our good friend Gary Nance, thank God, will call and tell us on occasion when he catches it. So thank you, Gary.
But I'll tell you, when I was in Rocky Hill, the mics would be left on. And it'd be transmitting out over public access TV. In the background of the community scroller was what we were talking about in the building. And what we talk about in the building is what's going on in town and how we're going to address it at the next show. Now, you would think that someone would call up and say, "Ed, your mics are open." Everybody turned the volume up on their TV sets and sat there and listened to us talking in the background. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Now, I don't think I say anything privately that I'm not prepared to say publicly. Some of it would be extremely offensive. But there's nothing that I'm afraid not to say publicly when I say it privately.
Let's talk about Joe Biden. I said here maybe a month
ago.
No,
whoa. Let's not talk about Joe Biden. Let's talk about Kavanaugh trying to get appointed to the Supreme Court. Let's talk about Gary Hart trying to run for president. Who else had to drop out because of situations like that? People made allegations in the past. Okay? And there the famous one, the Me Too movement guy, the movie guy. Weinstein. Okay? All of these people, prominent people, including Nancy Pelosi, all these people came running out of the woodwork to castrate and chastise the men who did it. Literally, I think that if you gave them a set of ball cutters, they would have been snapping the testicles off of males for doing what they did, regardless of, Kavanaugh was accused of sexually assaulting a girl at a beer party as a fucking high schooler, freshman, whatever, when he was in his 20s. And they dredge it up and they bring it forward.
And the woman's attorney, who was it? Was her last name Ford? I can't remember. Her attorney never even told her that they would come out there and get a statement from her. His goal was to get her before Congress, not only for publicizing him, but for getting into the good graces of the Democrats to perhaps go further. So she was totally manipulated in that.
Exactly. Now, that's why I say, why are we talking about Joe Biden? We can't even get to Joe Biden until we address the people who are no longer concerned with sexual misconduct allegations on the part of politicians.
I will say though, Rose McGowan, she was on Charmed, and she was one of the first to speak out against Harvey Weinstein.
Yep.
She has come out publicly and called out these people for that. She said you can't choose.
No, you
It's
cannot.
the behavior. If you're going to get on one, you need to get on the other. Whereas Alyssa Milano, who was also at the forefront of this Me Too movement, also on Charmed by, she said that Joe Biden is he deserves due process. Well, she never gave due process to anybody else, but all of a sudden Joe Biden deserves due process.
So now let's
By the way, supposedly there's a video out there that pieces together all the different times he's been photographed and recorded touching women, and a lot of them are really young, like, you know, high school, college, and it's really super creepy. Another thing I wanted to bring up while you're thinking is from the United States Supreme Court this week. I read an article and it said, little known doctrine relied on by Supreme Court. And I thought, wow, what's this? This is interesting, little known doctrine. And then I started reading the article, and a young man was in a mental health facility. He had mental health issues. The police were called. The next thing you know, he's on the floor and he's dead. And I thought to myself, well, they got to be talking about qualified immunity. And that is certainly not a little known doctrine, because tons of cases get thrown out every year when you try to hold a police officer responsible, because qualified immunity will get them out of most everything when you attempt to sue them civilly. And we almost named the show Qualified Immunity.
Supreme Court qualified immunity.
We had a choice, summary judgment or qualified immunity, and we chose summary judgment. So qualified immunity, for those of you who are wondering, is when an officer exercises his or her discretion, such as going to a mental health facility and engaging in some sort of physical conduct with an individual who's mentally ill, and perhaps for whatever reason they give, that person ends up dead. And the person's estate will sue the police officers, and the court will look at the police officer's conduct, and they'll say, number one, did it violate the Constitution? But number two, even if it did violate the Constitution, should the officers be held responsible? Because has this set of circumstances occurred previously, and was there a finding that this violated the Constitution, such that a reasonable officer would know that their conduct violated the Constitution? And a lot of times the court will say, well, there really wasn't a case similar to this that happened previously. Well, how far do you have to go to have a similar set of circumstances? So a lot of these cases will fall out on qualified immunity. A lot of people attempt to sue judges. Judges have absolute immunity for judicial acts exercised in the courtroom. And prosecutors have a great deal of immunity for what they do. When people say, oh, the judge should be sued or this person should be sued, what they forget is a lot of these people have immunity, which basically prevents them from being sued.
Right. There were several articles this week that were brought to my attention by Mr. Playford.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to find them right now, but it goes like, one of them, I Googled it. It's, if you Google...
I found this on the web.
I know.
Yeah, you can't Google it during the show.
Supreme Court qualified immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes up and it says that the court is, as Supreme Court considers several qualified immunity cases, a new ally joins the fight. Now, I know for a fact that Neil Gorsuch, when he was going through his hearings, confirmation hearings, there's a lot discussed about him and what he thinks. And one of the things that he was upset with was qualified immunity.
Some people think it should be dispensed with.
He was.
By the way, it's not a constitutional principle. It's a court made up. It's a doctrine made up by the courts.
Right. Right. Now, all I can say is this: is that you cannot train a police officer and turn him loose on society, and when he fucks up, give him qualified immunity, because we didn't train him. That's what it comes down to. We can't train a police officer about everything. Now,
well, there's an answer to that, and the answer to that is you can sue the municipality, if it's a municipal police department, you can sue the municipality under the Civil Rights Act 1983 for failure to train.
Correct.
For deliberate indifference.
Correct.
How many of those cases have ever been won? It's got to be 1/10 of 1%, because good luck trying to do all the discovery and get all the information to be able to prove that there was a lack of training that led to what this officer did.
Let me ask you a question. If a community created a bipartisan commission to review police misconduct, Civilian Review Board in Hartford, and the Civilian Review Board, or this organization that has been created, finds probable cause that there was a violation, I believe that the city should be required from the get-go to pay the plaintiff's attorney the same amount at the same monthly schedule as the city attorney, as the defense attorney. In other words, I have a situation right now where the VA is doing something to me. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, now I'm going to appeal, which I've done this week. But I'm still going to be out of pocket for possibly 2, 3, 4, 5 years until it's resolved. When in fact, when a veteran files an appeal, he should be, say he's a 70% veteran applying for 100%. During the appeal period, the VA should be required to pay him the 100% that he's looking for and expedite the appeal to end that payment if he's not entitled to it. And you only get one bite of the apple.
That would expedite the appeal, all right.
Then, if
they wouldn't let it go on forever under those circumstances.
No, because in essence, veterans, people on Social Security can't afford to retain attorneys. Now, here's another one. We know about this one. Under Social Security disability law, the maximum that can be paid to an attorney who is successful in getting you your disability is $6,000. But when they award the person...
Or 25% of the retroactive payment, whichever's lower, so you might not even get $6,000.
Right. 25, right. If they're behind by 1 month, yeah. But what I'm saying is this. Basically, it's $6,000. You can a person on Social Security disability can get a $100,000 retroactive award.
Right.
The lawyer gets $6,000.
Yeah, and you can work for months and months and years on it.
The law says the lawyer can only collect $6,000. Why is the government holding $37,000 of your clients?
Yep.
Why is the government holding $12,000 of another one of your former clients? Okay? When the maximum to be withheld for attorney's fees should be the maximum fee. If the maximum fee is $6, then Social Security should only be able to hold 6.
Yeah, there's no answer for that.
Well, I think there may not be an answer, but I would go venture to say there's going to be a response. Now, I would go like this. If you're the right lawyer and you have the right resources behind you, you file a class action lawsuit in behalf of every Social Security, every disabled Social Security recipient where legal fees in excess of $6,000 have been or currently are being held.
Where money in excess of $6,000 is being held, because if it's in excess of $6,000, it's not attorney's fees. It's your money.
Right, right. Now, all I'm saying is this.
It's a good idea.
When you, I'm going to pitch it to somebody.
Oh, I know who.
I know who too. I got a couple of them I'm going to pitch. But I go like this. I say that when you deny that person, I can't mention names.
No.
But I know an individual who was due Social Security disability for 9 years. 9 years worth of Social Security disability this person was entitled to. He eventually got it. And he didn't use an attorney, he used himself. Let's say
Well,
he
through
did.
did he go through the DAV?
No. This was Social Security, not veterans.
Oh, okay. Oh.
No. He may have had an attorney. But what happens is this: the period of time that money was withheld from him, your car gets repossessed, you get evicted, your credit goes down the shitter, all of these ramifications. And I got to tell you, today is May 9th, 2020. There are people who are going to be on the other side of the camera right now, or possibly watching the tape of this show tomorrow or the next day. And I ask everybody to spread it around, because it goes like this. There's probably minimum 500,000 people in the United States right now who are out of work, who have no resources, and especially in the state of Florida, where they have only paid 14% of the unemployment claims that have been submitted. People in, my son lives in Florida, and he told me, people in Florida do not have any, zero income coming in. How do they survive?
I don't know, Ed.
How can the governor of a state order landlords not to evict? Wait a minute. Now you're putting me in the same position you put them.
Well,
You can't do it, Rachel.
are you talking about and obviously there's different orders, but when that was first publicized, I read about it, and it said it only applies to landlords who receive federal funding.
Nope. You got it in reverse. If the landlord receives federal funding, he cannot evict.
That's what I meant.
Right.
It only applies to them.
I
Yes.
am a landlord. I have several rental units. I am fortunate. Most of the people that I've rented to still have revenue coming in. I'm also fortunate enough that sometimes when my tenants can't make their payments, I don't go knocking at their door, sending them threatening letters, or evict them. I've had to evict one person in 30 years. And I'm very happy that I did, because the tenant that's in that now, whatever. But what I think that what I'm trying to say is this. This period in our country is going to create a jury pool of individuals who are going to definitely understand why some people are going to do what some people are going to do.
What do you mean by that? Some people are going to do what?
I think that some people are going to resort to criminal activity.
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, let's talk about the hairdresser in Texas.
Let's talk about somebody who decides to sell drugs.
Well, I want to talk about the hairdresser in
Let's
Texas.
talk about the hairdresser in Texas.
So she has a business.
And I believe Ted Cruz went in and got his hair cut.
And she, let's assume she worked hard to grow that business and keep that business afloat. Let's assume that that business supports her and maybe a family.
Ted Cruz haircut.
He did go in this week and get a haircut, right? But
He
that
did.
was after. So let's assume all those things. And she goes and opens the salon. And I guess she's probably issued a cease and desist order.
Taken to jail.
Well, she had to be issued an order first to
Right,
violate,
right.
to be taken to jail.
Right.
Everybody's kind of missing
Right.
that part of it. Something had to come first. They can't just, it's not like she could have just been in the salon and they came and picked her up and put her in jail. Something happened. And she kept doing it even though she was ordered not to. And that's when she went to court. And I guess she wouldn't apologize. And when I first heard it, but then I got angry the next day when I thought about it, because that judge is sitting up there getting the same paycheck he's always gotten. Government workers, unless they're married to people who don't work for the government workers are not impacted by this financially.
Some government work. Most government work.
Well, if they've retained their jobs.
Right.
And I read in the newspaper the other day that in Connecticut, and obviously they're printing this stuff to, stir people up who are already stirred up. The highest pensions for government workers in Connecticut, the highest one's $333,000 a year. Somebody in Connecticut gets a $330,000 a year pension.
And gets a $1,200 stimulus check.
And that judge down there in Texas, who's not relying on a salon to keep afloat, he's not relying on a business to keep afloat, is going to throw somebody in jail who simply went to try to keep her business. There's something about that. I don't know how I feel about the quarantine. I know a lot of people are saying we need to get back to business and get out there.
Regardless of the consequences.
Yeah, I'm very mixed about that. I'm very, very mixed about that, because to me, the people that are really suffering because of this, a lot of people are suffering, but it's really hitting older people hard, especially in nursing homes and other places.
Next topic. I got another topic after that. You just reminded me.
And it's almost like, you know what? Who cares? It's a sickness that's just getting the old people or on their way out anyway. It doesn't really matter. But it's not true. I mean, I read a story about somebody's grandfather who fell and hurt his hip and had to go to the nursing home for rehab for maybe a week or two. And he's dead of the coronavirus. He was supposed to be out in a couple days and back home. And so I have mixed feelings. I mean, right here, I still got my mask, just in case somebody enters the studio or whatever. So, I don't know. I'll let you talk. I don't know how I feel about that salon owner opening up her business. But I do know how I feel about the judge treating her the way he did.
Okay. 1. Ted Cruz gets haircut at Texas salon after the owner was released from jail.
And Ted Cruz has a nice head of hair, by the way.
Now,
unless he's changed.
I own a hair salon. And I thumb myself at the government. Fuck you. You can't tell me to close my business over this shit. I'm going to open the door. And I open them wide open. and I put the red, white, and blue, and saying we're open. And not one person walks in the door to get a haircut because of coronavirus.
Which is going to happen.
That's on me. I opened, nobody showed up. But that didn't happen. Now.
Well, how do we know it didn't happen?
Hold on. No. She was doing people's hair.
Maybe she had a family member come in. We
Okay,
don't really
it was
know.
a setup.
Yeah.
It was all a publicity stunt.
It could have been.
Okay, now.
It could have been.
Do you remember a couple of weeks back, a month back, how all of the news was blacks are being hit the hardest by coronavirus? Remember that?
I think that still is the news.
Oh, no, new news now. Women are suffering more from coronavirus.
I thought it was men that were more likely to get it.
I saw.
But I thought it was men.
I don't believe anything that I read, hear, or see in the news unless it kisses me on the nose. Okay? But I'm telling you that I just saw, and I'd have to look it up now and try to find it. Okay? So first it was blacks.
People with diabetes.
Then it's no, forget about the health chick. No?
Okay.
A black person. For whatever reasons. Okay? Brown-skinned Hispanic people. Now they're talking about women. Okay? Well, now I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to repeat what I said 2 or 3 shows ago. As a young 17, 18-year-old, I went into combat. And for the first couple of months, I was scared to death. Because I got to tell you, if there's one place you can fucking die, it's in a Marine Corps platoon, in the middle of a jungle, in the middle of a firefight, in a war in Southeast Asia, or Fallujah. You want to talk about the threat of dying tomorrow, tonight, or the next minute, be a United States Combat Marine, or Army, or whatever, a Navy SEAL. And I told you back then that the fear surrounds us, it engulfs us, it just eats us. The fear, the coronavirus, we're going to die. People are being carried out of nursing homes, or dead out of nursing homes. The bodies are piling up in U-Haul trucks that are unrefrigerated at the funerals because they can't deal with them all. Of course, they got the money. But then all of a sudden, something inside the combat Marine or the person in combat goes, I cannot go through the rest of my tour of duty being scared and vomiting every morning I get up because of my fear. I just got to accept the fact I'm going to live or I'm going to die, but I'm going to do everything I possibly can to survive. It's 2020. I'm 71 years old. I lived to see my 20th birthday, which I never thought I would see.
I think the situation is different, and this is
People are coming out of their houses.
It's back to normal out there.
It's not back to normal.
The roads are busy.
I have an aunt, and she refused it. She wants until everybody's vaccinated. There are people, Rachel, I'm telling you, that are going to be afraid to come out of their homes.
Well, yeah, when I say back to normal, I mean the businesses certainly aren't open here in Connecticut.
No.
But the roads, I mean, for a while there, the roads were empty.
I watch with you several different types of shows that you would never catch me watching on TV. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Project Runway. Mm-hmm. What's the other one? There's another one. Project Runway.
Whatever.
Okay,
keep going.
wait a minute. And then there's Top Chef. Chopped and Top Chef. Now, in Top Chef, these kids...
Well, they're not kids. They're all ages.
I call these chefs from all over the country get together and compete against each other to win $125,000, okay? And a spread in the Food and Beverage magazine.
Food and Wine magazine.
Food and Wine magazine, okay? Now, some of the shows you're watching are 2 years old. So their dream was to open their own restaurant. They needed the money as seed money to open their own restaurant. Now, you get $125,000 and the title Top Chef. Now you have people willing to invest in you.
Just being on the
Okay.
show helps a lot of them.
And you now opened your restaurant in late 2018. You worked all of the bugs out. You're working towards Michelin stars. You're doing the best service, serving the best food you can. And all of a sudden, comes a bug out of China, and you are shut down tighter than an asshole.
Well, there was a story in the news about a Top Chef contestant. I don't know if he won, but he was high up there, and he opened a restaurant in Boston. A boutique kind of restaurant with only 20 seats or whatever, very highly rated. He's closed down for good. He announced he's not going to make it. And then Soup, I feel like I've seen Soup Plantation in California.
Oh yeah,
It's like a buffet or
it's
whatever.
up in Encinitas, yeah.
They're done. They're not coming
They're
back.
gone.
They just feel like the buffet style and that kind of style
They're
of
gone.
eating is just
They're
never
gone.
going to come back.
Chinese buffets, they're gone.
They're gone. They are. They have to
Okay.
be. There's no way.
Bench seatings in the churches, they're gone. Crowded services on Christmas Eve, they're gone. Crowded seats in the church on Easter, they're gone. They're doing it outside with a loudspeaker. They should take all of the holidays and put them into the month of July and sell everything outside. If you're going to play hockey, play on a frozen ring in July. Don't try to get together, everybody get together, it ain't going to work.
I wanted to talk about another instance of overreach by federal prosecutors, and it has to do with a series that's running, I think, on HBO, but Hulu is also running it, and it's called McMillions.
Ah,
It is great. I really enjoyed
the
it.
McDonald's scam.
It's about the Monopoly game at McDonald's, and that it was in fact a scam. And I'm not going to go any more into it because it's like 7 or 8 episodes, but it resulted in an 11th Circuit case. It's out of Jacksonville, Florida. The FBI down there investigated it, but I'd like to talk about it next week because it really has to do with government overreach. But if there's anybody who hasn't watched it by next week, don't watch the show. I hate to say that because it'll be spoiled for you. So you have to watch it all by next week because you haven't even seen it.
Oh my God! You cannot possibly imagine what's it called when you're doing stuff continually? Binge watching.
Yeah.
I've been binge watching every series I can find. I know every type of saw or sword blade the Vikings ever had. I know the hatchets. I know all of their traditions. I know all of the native. Because I watch the heavy duty shit.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, and we've got 6 minutes left, 6.5 minutes.
Well, I also did want to add in that we received a show topic from our loyal viewers and good friends down in Long Island, Eric and Rebecca.
Yeah.
And the article was about a policy that's being, proposed by the Department of Defense that people with coronavirus won't be able to join the military.
Okay.
Who've had coronavirus.
Let me tell you something.
That's just.
But let me tell you something. I met a young black Marine when I was in the service. I'm not going to mention names, but he came up to me and he did something that I knew that he was gay. Put his finger in my ear and started talking to me nice. What the hell are you doing? But at that point I knew. Now, I have never, in my earlier years, I was never prejudiced. I went to a boarding school that had black, white, Hispanic, they had them. I went into the Marine Corps where everybody bleeds red. I had friends all over the place. But I got to tell you, this is a world where I would not. They asked me during my heart transplant, would I accept blood or a heart from an HIV positive person. It's one of the things they ask you. Will you take a heart if it's got hepatitis C? Will you accept a heart from an individual who has HIV, okay, AIDS? And they ask you all these questions. And I'm sure that there's some people on their last legs, maybe they got 2 weeks to live, and the only alternative is that heart that's HIV positive. Put it in my chest. I'll deal with the HIV because, there's people that have been taking HIV pills for their whole life. But what I'm saying is, in the military back then, I don't give a shit if you're gay, female, I don't care. Just don't stand in back of me and dwiddle. Look forward with your rifle and your bayonet and stand beside me, not behind me. And I wouldn't want, at that time, I would not have wanted the blood supply of blood being given to men in the field to be tainted possibly by HIV. So I have to sit back and analyze a lot of the things that I thought in the past, and now I don't know how I would react to them now, except 1 year ago, 11 months ago, I went in Hartford Hospital. They started to evaluate me for a heart transplant, and they came and they asked you 200 questions. And I remember the ones that they asked about high-risk hearts and high-risk blood. And I was sitting there saying, I'll cross the bridge when I come to it, but I'm not going to say I refuse it.
Yeah, but you made me think of something, though. Something else I read this week where they are finding in men who have had the coronavirus, indication in the semen. So it makes you wonder if, a baby results, if the baby would have, the baby would probably be immune to it, actually.
I don't know, but I did read that.
I don't think any of us know.
That was in my head. I forgot to mention it. But I'm sitting there going, oh my God. So some young male gets the coronavirus, overcomes the coronavirus, lives his life, reaches a certain station in life, wants to start a family, and there's a possibility that he can give his children the coronavirus because it's in his sperm.
Well, you could certainly do tests to see if it's still there.
You can.
I'm wondering how they found this out to begin with. What did they start asking people who got better? I don't know. Anyway, let's end it with that, okay? Everybody have a good week.
We're going to end it with coronavirus and sperm.
Have a good week.